The wind moved through the trees, cold and quiet, carrying with it a weight that seemed almost alive. Night pressed down on the world, thick with fog and the smell of wet earth. Shadows pooled along the riverbanks and in the hollows of the forest, shifting with the faintest motion. Something was out there, watching, moving just beyond sight. It began with subtle hints, the rustle of leaves where no wind blew, a distant cry that sounded larger than any bird, a sense of being measured. Ordinary sounds became threatening. A snap of a twig could make the heart leap. Every shadow seemed too deliberate, every glimmer of movement too precise. And then came the eyes, red and glowing, briefly visible in the dark before vanishing, leaving only the memory of fear. Fear is a quiet thing at first, a whisper beneath the skin. It grows in the spaces between sound and silence, filling the pauses with imagined shapes. Those who felt it spoke of unease that refused to leave. The night seemed heavier, charged with something unseen. Even the wind carried a different rhythm, as if the world itself had shifted slightly off its axis. Curiosity followed fear. Once attention is drawn to the impossible, it refuses to look away. Some sought it, daring to walk where the air felt thick and the shadows deep. Others prayed it would stay hidden, yet they could not stop listening for the flutter of wings in the distance, or the faint, unnatural hum that vibrated through the air. This story is not merely about a creature. It is about the moment when the ordinary world brushes against the unknown, when the line between what is real and what is imagined begins to tremble. It is about the sensation of being watched, of something vast and silent marking your presence without sound or movement. And so it begins with a whisper, carried on the wind through forests, over rivers, and into the spaces where the world feels uncertain. A whisper that asks a single question: what else is out there, waiting? Nestled along the curves of the Ohio River, the land stretches in quiet undulation, a mix of dense forests, open fields, and rolling hills. The air carries a dampness that seeps into the soil, giving rise to thick vegetation and long shadows beneath the canopy of oaks and maples. Even on clear nights, mist often rises from the river, curling into tendrils that cling to the ground and blur the boundary between land and water. Paths that are clear by day twist and vanish in the darkness, leaving the wanderer uncertain of distance or direction. This is the world where the Mothman legend took shape. It is a land of contrasts, both gentle and harsh. Summers are hot, thick with humidity that clings to the skin and weighs on the air. Winters are sharp, and the cold bites through layers of clothing, making every breath visible, every movement a reminder of vulnerability. The trees, bare and skeletal in the late months, become a lattice of shadows against the moonlit sky. Streams and creeks crisscross the land, their water cold and swift, hidden beneath leaves and ice, and often reflecting shapes that the mind misinterprets in low light. In the mid-1960s, the region was still tightly connected to its industrial roots, yet punctuated by rural isolation. Small towns dotted the landscape, separated by forests, fields, and the winding river. Roads were narrow and often uneven, lined by the occasional lampposts that flickered or failed entirely. Bridges arched across streams and rivers, their iron beams sometimes rusted with age, casting skeletal reflections into the water below. At night, the only illumination came from occasional porch lights or the glow of a distant farmhouse, leaving most of the land steeped in darkness. It was the kind of darkness that had texture, thick, heavy, and alive, carrying every sound from footstep to falling branch, every whisper of movement amplified in the still air. The human footprint was present but subdued. Houses, modest and functional, sat along winding streets or at the edge of fields, often separated from neighbors by stretches of forest. Barns and sheds dotted the farmland, their wooden planks creaking with the wind. Smoke curled from chimneys in early mornings, blending with the mist above the fields. People moved deliberately, knowing the land intimately, yet remaining cautious of its hidden corners. The Ohio River itself was both a lifeline and a source of unease, its waters shifting silently beneath the moon, reflecting the dark sky and the occasional flicker of light, as though hiding something just beneath the surface. Life in these towns and rural areas was defined by routine and community. Children played in backyards or along quiet streets, their laughter carried on warm summer evenings. Adults labored in factories, offices, or farms, aware of the season's rhythm and the practical necessities of survival. Nights were long, especially in winter, and people were accustomed to the sounds of the natural world, the hoot of owls, the snap of twigs, the call of distant coyotes. But these sounds could also mask something different, something that moved with intent and deliberation, unseen but felt in the tension of the air, in the prickling of skin along the back of the neck. The era itself contributed to the feeling of uncertainty and unease. The mid-60s in America were a time of transition, a period of quiet anxiety beneath the surface of everyday life. Rural communities experienced both the comfort of tradition and the subtle disruptions of modernity. Television and radio brought distant events into living rooms, while local stories and rumors maintained their own power. In small towns, word of unusual events spread quickly. The social fabric was tight, and the opinions of neighbors carried weight. Anything out of the ordinary, strange lights, unexplained sounds, fleeting glimpses in the forest, could ignite conversation, speculation, and fear. The physical environment of the region reinforced that sense of tension. Forests were dense and often old, with undergrowth that made travel difficult. Trees twisted into forms that, in dim light, seemed almost human. Branches scraped against one another with the wind, producing sounds reminiscent of distant wings or whispered voices. The river meandered unpredictably, its banks alternating between mud and rock, and fog often obscured the far side, leaving observers with a sense of incompleteness, a nagging uncertainty about what might be concealed. Even the skies contributed to the atmosphere. Nights were often clear enough to see stars reflected in the river's surface, yet clouds moved swiftly, and storms could appear with little warning. Lightning sometimes illuminated the treetops, revealing shapes in the darkness for a brief instant before plunging the landscape back into shadow. Moonlight, too, cast its own illusions, filtering through branches and creating phantom movements among the trees. These natural effects, subtle yet insistent, created an environment perfectly suited for stories that relied on the interplay between perception and reality, fear and curiosity. In this landscape of forested hills, winding rivers, and isolated roads, the conditions were ripe for the emergence of a legend. The combination of dense natural surroundings, limited artificial light, and human routines created moments in which the ordinary could become extraordinary. Every shadow could hide a watcher. Every rustle of leaves could signal the approach of something unnatural. And the human mind, ever attentive to danger, ever alert to the unknown, was ready to interpret these moments in ways that blurred the line between reality and imagination. It is in this environment, at this particular time, that the first stirrings of the Mothman story would emerge. The stage was set, a landscape both familiar and disorienting, a society attuned to routine yet susceptible to fear, a night alive with possibility, and a world on the edge of perception where the unseen could make itself known. It is said that the first glimpse of the creature occurs when the night is at its deepest, when the world is wrapped in quiet and the air feels impossibly thick. The witnesses described it as a figure unlike anything they had seen before, a shadow born of both flesh and darkness, its presence commanding attention even in the vast openness of the forest or the empty stretch of a riverbank. Its form was tall and humanoid, but wings unfolded from its shoulders, wide and silent, stretching beyond what seemed physically possible. Every movement was deliberate, measured, and eerily fluid, as if gravity itself bent in respect to its passage. Its eyes are often the first detail to make an impression. They glowed with a crimson light, intense and unblinking, seeming to burn through the fabric of darkness. People spoke of the sensation of being measured by those eyes, of feeling weighed and assessed without sound or motion. The eyes were not merely points of light. They were living lenses, capturing every tremor of fear and curiosity, every pulse of the human heart. In some accounts, witnesses reported that the creature's gaze lingered even after it vanished from view, seared into memory like an ember on the mind. The wings were unlike any birds. They moved in a way that was at once familiar and impossible, folding and unfolding with a quiet precision. Some described the sound of air displaced by their motion, a subtle hum that could be mistaken for wind but carried an underlying resonance that felt alive. Others noted the absence of sound entirely, the wings slicing the air with such perfect control that no whisper of movement reached the ears. Yet the sensation of motion remained, pressing against the skin like a living shadow. People encountered it near structures that should have been mundane, roads, bridges, and open fields, often at the edge of human habitation where light faded into shadow. In one account, a witness reported walking along a narrow road when a dark figure materialized at the tree line. It did not move immediately, but simply watched, wings partially spread, eyes fixed. The witness froze, heart pounding, muscles refusing motion, until the figure finally launched into the sky with a silent sweep of its wings, vanishing into the night as if it had never been there. Its presence evoked the same combination of awe and dread. The body was humanoid but elongated, with arms and legs that seemed long. Its skin, where visible in fleeting light, appeared gray or dark, blending seamlessly with the shadows so that it could vanish into the night even when nearby. Encounters often shared a rhythm. First, a sense of unease, a feeling of being watched, as though the forest or riverbank itself had become conscious. Then a movement glimpsed out of the corner of the eye, a flutter or sway that could be dismissed, but never fully ignored. Finally, the figure would reveal itself, briefly but unmistakably, wings extended, glowing eyes, body poised in silent observation. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it would vanish, leaving behind only the echo of fear, the lingering pulse of adrenaline, and the questions that would not fade. The creature seemed to interact with the human world in subtle, inexplicable ways. Cars stalled near its sightings, lights flickered, animals fled or acted erratically. People reported feeling an oppressive weight in the air, a sensation that pressed against the chest, making each breath deliberate and conscious. It was as if the Mothman's presence altered reality slightly, bending perception, heightening awareness, and forcing even the most rational mind to question what it had seen. Yet, there was also fascination. Witnesses, though terrified, often returned to the places of sightings. The pull was inexplicable, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and the desire to witness the impossible again. Those nights when the creature appeared became etched into memory, retold around fires, in whispered conversations, and in the uneasy quiet of bedrooms when the moonlight fell across the floor. The human imagination, already primed for the extraordinary in the darkness, carried these images forward, embellishing and refining them with each retelling. The Mothman did not speak. There were no sounds of communication, no calls or cries. Its presence alone was enough. Its silence amplified the terror, forcing observers to project thoughts, fears, and intentions onto it. Was it a harbinger, watching and waiting for some inevitable event? Was it merely curious, a being of another realm, observing the humans who dared to intrude upon its space? Or was it a predator, testing the limits of perception and courage? No answer was given, and the uncertainty became part of its legend, a shadow that lingered far longer than the creature itself. Descriptions varied, but certain features remained consistent. The wings, the glowing eyes, the humanoid frame, the sense of weight and presence that defied ordinary understanding. People spoke of it with a mixture of fear, reverence, and disbelief. To see it was to be changed, to experience the night as something alive and conscious, and to carry forward a story that could not be ignored. It is in this combination of mystery, fear, and fascination that the folklore of the Mothman solidified. Not merely a story of a creature, but a narrative that captured the human imagination in all its vulnerability and curiosity. The legend thrived in the gaps between sight and perception, between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between the known and the unknowable. Each account, each whispered tale, added depth to the creature's presence, shaping it not just as an apparition, but as a symbol of what lies beyond understanding. And so the story endures, told in the rustle of leaves, the sweep of shadows, and the brief, unforgettable glimpse of a figure with wings and burning eyes, appearing where the night is darkest, and vanishing before it can be fully comprehended. Even within the earliest reports, the Mothman is not a figure of uniform description. Witnesses and folkloric accounts describe its form differently, reflecting subtle shifts in appearance, size, and movement. In some accounts, it is tall and slender, with a humanoid frame that towers above an ordinary person. Other descriptions portray it as slightly shorter, almost compact, yet still imposing. Its proportions often appear unusual: elongated limbs, long fingers, and legs that give it a sense of unnatural agility. The wings are among the most distinctive features. Some people describe them as enormous and feathered, stretching far beyond the width of the body, while others report thin, bat-like membranes, flexible and smooth. Their movement varies as well. In some accounts, they are folded tightly when the creature is at rest, only spreading when it launches into flight. In others, the wings are open and sweeping, giving it an appearance both graceful and menacing. The sound of the wings is inconsistent. A few describe a faint whisper, almost like wind passing through leaves, while others claim there is no sound at all, the wings slicing through the night air in silence. The eyes are perhaps the most consistently noted feature, yet even these show variation. Most agree on glowing red or reddish-orange eyes, unblinking and intense. Some describe small, concentrated points of light, while others recall orbs so large they dominate the face, creating an overwhelming sense of being observed. A few retellings mention a faint pulsing in the glow, while others emphasize a steady, unwavering brightness. Skin tone and texture differ in accounts as well. In some descriptions, the Mothman's body appears gray or dark, blending seamlessly into the shadows of the night. Other accounts hint at a slightly reflective surface, a subtle sheen that catches the moonlight, giving the impression of smoothness rather than feathers or scales. Its head is generally rounded, sometimes appearing featureless aside from the glowing eyes, other times suggested to have faint contours resembling a face. Behavioral differences also appear in the accounts, though in all cases the creature is silent. In some versions of the legend, it perches on treetops or hillsides, motionless, observing with patience. In others, it appears to move deliberately toward open areas, gliding or launching into flight with a sudden burst of motion. Some reports describe it remaining in place long enough for observers to notice, while others depict fleeting glimpses, vanishing almost immediately. Even within the same region, slight variations exist between reports. Certain accounts emphasize its wingspan and stature, while others focus on the intensity of its gaze. The creature's presence may be fleeting, barely glimpsed in the corner of an eye, or more pronounced, with details observed for several seconds. These differences are noted in folkloric records and compilations of the sightings, creating a composite of a figure that shifts in form and perception. Across retellings, the essential elements remain: a humanoid figure, wings of considerable size, glowing eyes, and a silent presence in the darkness. Beyond these constants, the creature is described differently depending on the source, time, and context, leaving a variety of versions that coexist within the larger legend. Each description adds nuance, providing a richer picture of the Mothman as both a mysterious and enduring figure in the folklore of the region. In the autumn of 1966, the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, became the epicenter of a series of unsettling events that would etch the name Mothman into the annals of American folklore. The first widely reported sighting occurred on the 15th of November, when two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette, were driving near the old World War II munitions site known as the TNT area. As they passed the area, they noticed a large, winged creature standing by the roadside. According to Linda Scarberry, the creature was a man-sized bird, something, with glowing red eyes that seemed to follow their every move. Terrified, the couples sped away, but the creature allegedly pursued their car, keeping pace and occasionally swooping toward them. The chase ended only when they reached the city limits of Point Pleasant. The next day, the local newspaper, the Point Pleasant Register, published an article titled, "Couples See Man-Sized Bird, Something," which brought the story to public attention. This marked the beginning of a series of similar reports from residents in and around Point Pleasant. Over the following weeks, more individuals came forward with their own accounts. Two volunteer firemen reported seeing a large bird-like creature with red eyes near the TNT area. One of them described it as having a wingspan of at least 10 feet. In another notable incident, contractor Newell Partridge reported seeing a creature in a nearby field. When he shined a flashlight at it, he claimed its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. Partridge also noted that his television set had been malfunctioning around the same time, displaying strange patterns and noises. As the sightings continued, the creature's presence seemed to coincide with a series of mysterious events. Residents reported experiencing feelings of dread and unease, and some claimed to have seen unidentified flying objects in the vicinity. These reports, combined with the creature sightings, led to widespread speculation about a connection between the Mothman and other unexplained phenomena. Connie Carpenter, who was 18 years old in November 1966, reported a daylight sighting of the Mothman. She described the creature as having glowing red eyes and a large wingspan, standing motionless on the ground. Her account adds to the variety of reported Mothman encounters, which include both nocturnal and daytime sightings. The sightings reached their peak in December 1967, just days before the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge, which spanned the Ohio River between Point Pleasant and Gallipolis. On the 15th of December, the bridge collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. Many residents believed that the Mothman's appearances were a harbinger of the disaster. While the initial wave of Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant occurred between November 1966 and December 1967, there have been additional reports over the years that continue to intrigue both locals and cryptid enthusiasts. In November 2016, a man driving along State Route 2 in Point Pleasant claimed to have photographed a creature resembling the legendary Mothman. He described the creature as leaping from tree to tree and provided grainy images showing a winged figure with pointed wings and long legs. Local residents, such as Carolyn Harris, who has owned the Mothman Diner for 48 years, expressed belief in the authenticity of these photographs, citing the numerous sightings over the years. The story of the Mothman, as it unfolded over those tense months in Point Pleasant, has long intrigued folklorists, cryptid researchers, and cultural historians alike. At first glance, it is a tale of sightings, of glowing red eyes, immense wings, and inexplicable movements in the shadows. Yet beneath the surface, the legend resonates on a far deeper level, reflecting the fears, hopes, and collective imagination of a community confronting the unknown. Legends, by their nature, are not bound solely by facts. They are shaped by human perception, memory, and the primal need to understand. The Mothman emerged from a small town in Appalachia, a place where forests loom thick and quiet roads wind through isolated valleys. In such a landscape, where shadows stretch long and the night feels alive, any unusual sighting could take on outsized significance. The figure of a winged creature with piercing red eyes did not merely startle the residents. It became a symbol of uncertainty and foreboding, a mirror for anxieties that existed before the first glimpse of glowing eyes in the darkness. Researchers have explored the possibility that these sightings may have had natural explanations. One common theory suggests that the creature reported by many witnesses could have been an unusually large heron, a bird native to the region. Known locally as a shitepoke, these birds possess long wings and a silent, gliding flight that, in dim light, might appear unnatural or threatening. Another plausible explanation involves the sandhill crane, a bird known for its considerable size, large wingspan, and striking red-tinted eyes. Under the low light of twilight or the diffuse glow of street lamps, the crane's features could easily be misperceived as something far more ominous. These scientific explanations do not diminish the intensity of the eyewitness accounts. Rather, they provide a lens through which to interpret them. The human brain is highly attuned to detecting movement in faces, particularly in conditions of low visibility or stress. Shadows, branches, and the play of light can transform a familiar object into something unrecognizable. When combined with heightened fear, social suggestion, and the isolated environment of rural West Virginia, these factors could have contributed to the widespread perception of a mysterious, winged creature. Beyond biology, the legend of the Mothman can also be examined through the lens of cultural psychology. Archetypes of winged beings often appear in folklore and myth, representing transition, warning, or otherworldly power. The red eyes, consistently reported across accounts, evoke immediate attention and fear, amplifying the sense that the observer is encountering something outside ordinary experience. In this way, the Mothman functions as a symbolic figure, a narrative device through which communities express and negotiate uncertainty, danger, and the unknown. The legend's enduring appeal may also stem from its association with real-world events. The collapse of the Silver Bridge in December 1967 created a haunting context for interpreting the sightings. While scientific explanations such as misidentified birds account for the physical appearance of the creature, the social and psychological dimensions, the anticipation of danger, the perception of omens, and the collective memory of fear ensure that the Mothman remains more than a simple misidentification. In analyzing the legend, we observe the interplay of human perception, natural phenomena, and cultural narrative. The sightings may have plausible scientific explanations, yet the creature's form, symbolism, and emotional impact transcend the purely rational. The Mothman is both a potential product of misperceived wildlife and a cultural artifact, a figure through which the residents of Point Pleasant and generations beyond explore the limits of understanding and the shadowy margins of experience. The Mothman phenomenon, while often recounted through personal stories, is grounded in a clear record of historical reporting and official documentation. In November 1966, shortly after the first widely publicized sightings, the local newspaper, the Point Pleasant Register article, captured the mixture of disbelief and alarm that rippled through the town, and it provides one of the earliest written records of the phenomenon entering public awareness. Following this initial report, a steady stream of newspaper articles chronicled the events. Local journalists documented not only the sightings themselves, but also the growing tension in the community. Reports highlighted the unusual nature of the creature and the fear it generated, noting the repeated appearances near the TNT area, an abandoned World War II munitions site. These articles, written contemporaneously, reveal the careful attention paid by the press to multiple witnesses and their statements, offering a lens into how small-town media shaped the perception of unexplained events. Police records and county archives add another layer to the historical understanding of the legend. Mason County authorities, including Sheriff George Johnson, maintained notes on inquiries related to the sightings. While official statements often suggested natural explanations, such as large birds native to the region, the records confirm that law enforcement treated the reports seriously enough to document them systematically. These official entries provide insight into the intersection between public concern and institutional response, showing how a cluster of unusual events was managed and recorded. Beyond newspapers and police logs, local libraries and historical societies preserved interviews, letters, and transcripts that reflect the broader community experience. These documents illustrate the social environment of Point Pleasant, revealing a town on edge, where curiosity, anxiety, and rumor interwove. The historical record captures the way information circulated, how witness accounts were corroborated, and how events were cataloged for posterity. The collapse of the Silver Bridge on the 15th of December, 1967, stands as a pivotal historical marker in the timeline. While the bridge disaster itself is a documented engineering failure, historical records show that the proximity of Mothman sightings to this tragedy became a central element in how the events were remembered. Newspapers, municipal reports, and archival records indicate that the overlap of these two phenomena, sightings and disaster, intensified public attention and preserved the story in collective memory. In examining these sources, historians and researchers find a firm foundation for the legend. The written accounts, official documentation, and contemporaneous reporting establish that Point Pleasant experienced a remarkable series of events over a short period, which were recorded systematically and survived for future study. This historical layer provides the factual scaffold upon which the myth and cultural analysis would later develop, distinguishing the verifiable moments from the legend that grew around them. Decades have passed since the first chilling sightings in Point Pleasant, yet the legend of the Mothman continues to ripple through the town and beyond, shaping its identity and capturing imaginations across the world. The small town, once quiet and insular, has become a place where past and present converge, where the shadow of a winged figure still seems to linger in the corners of memory and in the quiet spaces between trees. Visitors to Point Pleasant today can feel the lingering resonance of those nights in 1966 and 1967. Streets that once echoed only with the sounds of tires and wind now host the soft hum of conversation, laughter, and curiosity, as tourists arrive from distant states and countries to learn about the legend firsthand. Locals share the stories their parents and grandparents passed down, recounting red eyes in the darkness, immense wings, and the chilling sense of being watched. The tales are told with reverence and amusement in equal measure, a living narrative woven into the fabric of daily life. Physical tributes to the Mothman help anchor the legend in the town's landscape. In 2003, a towering 12-foot statue of the creature was unveiled near downtown Point Pleasant. Crafted by artist Bob Roach, it depicts the Mothman with enormous wings outstretched and its iconic red eyes staring forward. The statue has become a landmark, a destination for tourists and enthusiasts who wish to witness the creature immortalized in metal and concrete. Its presence serves as both a reminder of the past and a celebration of the enduring fascination the Mothman inspires. The Mothman Museum and Research Center complements the statue, providing a space where artifacts, photographs, newspaper clippings, and recorded testimonies are preserved. Visitors can trace the story from its earliest sightings to contemporary interpretations, exploring both the factual accounts and the evolution of the myth. Seasonal events, most notably the annual Mothman Festival, draw thousands of people to Point Pleasant, blending education, folklore, and playful celebration. Costumes, lectures, and storytelling sessions allow locals and visitors alike to experience the legend as a living, breathing part of the town. The legend has also reached national and global audiences through literature and film. In 1975, journalist John Keel published The Mothman Prophecies, documenting the sightings and weaving a narrative that combined investigative reporting with folklore. Keel's book drew attention far beyond West Virginia, presenting the Mothman as both a mysterious figure and a cultural symbol. The story was later adapted into a 2002 feature film, which dramatized the events in Point Pleasant and introduced the creature to a new generation. The film emphasized suspense and psychological tension, capturing the essence of fear and curiosity that had first gripped the town's residents decades earlier. The cultural footprint of the Mothman extends beyond Point Pleasant. Films, podcasts, art installations, and literature reinterpret the legend in contemporary contexts, ensuring that it continues to evolve while retaining its core identity. A winged, red-eyed figure, both terrifying and enigmatic. From museum exhibits to festivals, statues, and cinematic retellings, the Mothman persists as a symbol of the unknown, of human curiosity, and of the ways in which communities engage with mystery. In the modern day, Point Pleasant embraces its history with a mixture of solemnity, pride, and playful homage. The streets, the forests, the rivers, they all carry whispers of a past that is at once real and spectral. A reminder that the extraordinary once moved among the ordinary. The Mothman continues to inhabit both memory and imagination, its wings stretching across generations, its red eyes staring from story, statue, and screen alike, ensuring that the legend endures for all who seek the shadowed corners of the unexplained.